Okay, so up to this point, we've been spending a lot of time talking about where our errors come from, okay? Recognizing that the actions that we take in the physical world, okay, are actually made possible by a conglomeration of energy that has to do with our soul condensing into our spirit body, condensing into the physical, okay? So like every time that we commit an error in the physical world, it's actually because there's a corresponding emotional injury or set of injuries that create the desire to act in a way that is out of harmony with the Creator's view of love in the physical world, okay? Now, a big part of this work, if you want to grow in love and develop a relationship with the Creator being, is understanding the Creator's perspective about where your error originated from, okay? So, I've been talking a lot about parents, okay? And I've been talking a lot about soul damage and things that happen to us in the womb and all this stuff, okay? That's just to get you to understand where the stuff's coming from, okay? Once we recognize that, it is not an excuse for us to blame our parents for our behavior and everything that happens to us, okay? Actually, from the Creator's perspective, we need to be doing the opposite. We need to be taking responsibility for ourselves, okay? So, what do I mean when I'm saying the Creator wants us to take responsibility for ourselves? Well, primarily here, I'm talking about soul-based responsibility, okay? So, the first aspect of taking responsibility is knowing our true parent, okay? God is our true parent, okay? And when we continue to hold the false beliefs that our earth parents are actually our parents, we are going to attract events via the law of attraction, which will challenge our beliefs about them. And ultimately, if we do not relinquish this belief that our earth parents are our parents voluntarily, what will happen is we will attract error. We will attract events that show us our own error, and it will be more intense the longer we wait, okay? So if you can think of it like, if you go throughout your entire life not knowing or believing in God and thinking that your parents are God, okay? Even conceptually, if you admit that's not the case, so you still believe that, okay? Because they are the highest authority that you know of because they created you from your perspective, okay? What's going to happen is you're going to uncover serious faults and flaws in their behavior, okay? And you know what? Even if they don't have any flaws or faults in their behavior, but they don't teach you about God, that itself is a huge flaw and fault, okay? So, like, part of the reason why they don't do that is because they don't know themselves about God. The other part of the reason why they do it is because they enjoy feeling your love for them, which is actually misplaced, okay? That, like, you know, parents want their children to love them, but really we're not even teaching them the truth about who their real parent is, okay? We want to take responsibility, you know, this is our child, okay? Well, eventually, if you work through your stuff, you're going to be confronted in a serious way about your parents not being your parents, okay? And that could come in all kinds of different forms, you know? Like, for me, one of my challenging aspects is that, like, the male figure who raised me, I do not believe anymore is my biological father. Now, that means that my earth mother was intimate with another man near the time of my conception. There's anger in that. But then there's also anger in feeling lied to about not knowing where I came from, okay? But, like, again, like, me having to wrestle with this notion of, like, who's my real parent, in this particular situation, it actually helps me because, you know, I can recognize that humans acted in an imperfect way regarding me and you know, the truth of my biological heritage. But the real truth from the creator's perspective is that the creator is our parent, okay? And so, like, me going through that law of attraction event helped me further my knowing that this is actually true, okay? The second major aspect is understanding ourselves. Now again, I'm talking about from a soul-based perspective, okay? So imagine if, like, you take some of these concepts that I am presenting. Remember, they're not my concepts. They're God's concepts. I'm just presenting them, okay? If you take some of this stuff and experiment with feeling out your layers of emotions, then you can start to confirm truths to yourself about how this place is constructed and start to learn about the being that constructed it. Imagine you're a small child and your parents are teaching you about the law of attraction. You're not filled up with suppressed emotions because your parents aren't filled up with suppressed emotions because they already know the stuff. Anytime a negative feeling or an ill intention comes up in you, your parents show you how to release it. I mean, that would be great. Imagine being able to connect with the creator as an infant or a small child. That you know how to do that because your earth parents have taught you this. That would be incredible to me. Okay. Part of this is recognizing that when you start to develop your free will, from the creator's perspective, you are responsible for everything that you do from now on, including not addressing your errors. Okay? So, this is where, again, taking responsibility comes into play. We're not blaming our parents, okay? This isn't, my life is terrible because of you. We are taking responsibility for what is in our soul and understanding how our soul works. When we actively seek to remove what is inside of us, the errors inside of us, by releasing it, by feeling it out, we will then go through periods of anger, right? And fear and grief regarding our parents' role in our lives. And this process is going to confront, almost everything that happened to you in some kind of way. But it's still on you to understand that other people can put errors into your soul, but you are the only one that can take them out. Okay? And that when you refuse to take them out, and you go throughout life navigating and interacting, you are continuing to act in error. Because you know that you have core errors inside of you that you're not addressing. Okay? You don't have to. I'm just saying, from the creator's perspective, this is how he sees it. Okay? So, he sees it that, okay, he understands we have been loaded with error from the second that we've been incarnated into this place. Okay? But the creator also knows how powerful the human soul is and how much the human soul vibrates with the truth. Okay? That the creator puts it on all of her children to engage their own free will and, again, learn about ourselves and know who our true parent is. Okay? The next thing on taking responsibility is growing in love. Okay? So, once we start to recognize there is a creator being, there are a set of principles, okay? I need to take responsibility. Things are on me, okay? Now, you can start saying to yourself, okay, every single thing that's happening in my life is because I want it to be that way. This is kind of more down here, right? Admit we want to be where we are. You might be saying to yourself, I didn't ask for this, or I didn't ask for that. I didn't ask for this bad thing in my life or that bad thing in my life. Well, you may not have vocalized it, but your soul is attempting to show you what is inside of yourself. Okay? This includes all of your cravings and appetites. Okay? So if you're charged up sexually and you find yourself attracted to every woman, that's not an accident. There's something there. If you find yourself binge eating to cover your emotions, it's not an accident. There's something there. Okay? If you find that you are suppressing your emotions and not dealing with your fear, it's because there's something there. If you have trouble telling the truth to your parents, it's because something's there. If you have fear about how you're going to pay for your life, it's because something's there. You see? All this stuff. If you're angry about this place, if you're angry at other people, if you're angry at your family members, if you're angry at yourself, if you're angry at your soulmate, there's something there. Okay? And by the way, for the people who don't believe they're angry, anger can be anything from rage all the way to mild annoyance. Do you ever use that phrase? I'm not angry, I'm just annoyed. Much like anxiety is low-level fear, it's actually fear. Anxiety is like fear seeping out of you because your container's so full of it. Likewise, annoyance is like rage seeping out of you because your container is too full, okay? So if you find yourself annoyed at things, you have anger inside of you. And it would be far better for you to just admit that it's there. Because how are you going to feel it out or understand where it came from if you don't even admit that it's there? When you start admitting it's there, you can say to yourself, oh man, I am a walking ball of rage. I would like to not be a walking ball of rage. I want to grow in love, right? I don't quite know how, but I know I can do better. How? Where do I start? How's it go? Admitting to yourself that you are out of harmony with love and that you want to grow is a necessary step. Even saying it out loud. I'm in error and I would like to grow in love. That helps. Because admitting things out loud will start to uncover these layers of emotions and you'll start to be able to recognize where some of this stuff comes from. So like when you are experiencing this like nebulous anger that you don't know where it came from, when you start admitting to yourself, I am angry and this and that, you'll start recognizing, oh, I'm angry here because of this. I'm angry here because of that. And then you may go through the exercise of justifying that anger, which you're allowed to do. But again, if you recognize all this, if you recognize the progressions of emotions, that apathy and depression cover anger or rage, which covers our emotional or physical addictions, which keeps us from feeling our fear or terror, which covers our grief, which prevents us from receiving God's love. Okay? So if you're admitting to yourself that you're angry about something, you can know that I'm actually angry because I have an emotional addiction. Like, I'll have, an example from my own life is I find myself constantly angry at the environmental ignorance of others, right? In other words, like that humans continually disregard their role and impact on the greater landscape and the greater situation that we're experiencing here on the planet. As I learn more about how powerful our soul is, and as I learn more about how the Creator designed the natural world to enhance itself and how life is supposed to build off of complexity and beauty off of itself, that I just find myself uncovering new layers of rage at the general populace. That's okay. Because I recognize, hey, it's another addiction. It's another addiction. And then I work my way through that. And then I do it again and again and again with every emotion. It all follows these principles. Okay? So if I'm apathetic, which is common in regards to the situation with the environment, because we feel like we can't do anything about it. If you feel like you can't do anything about it, you're actually covering up anger. And again, I know it doesn't feel like that, or you don't even want to experiment with feeling your anger. But that's the kind of experiment that you can do in this kind of work. Okay? Again, it's for free. Yell. Ah! Your yelling will pull you out of depression, and it will challenge your addiction, whatever that might be, right? So again, it's an addiction that everyone views this place as I view this place. It's an addiction of mine that I expect anyone else to live in harmony with the Creator's view of love. Every single person on this planet is allowed to live out of harmony with love, if they choose. Okay? Now, of course, that's not what I'm shooting for, but I need to honor that free will of everyone and challenge my own addictions about that. Okay? If I knew this about the soul, maybe I wouldn't be aging right now, because I would have released my anger as a young person, and then if new events come up, I know how to release my anger now in a loving way, by feeling it generally and not rather than directing it at a person. Okay? Or one thing that I learned growing up was that you walk around full of rage, you're able to direct that rage in certain ways to intimidate people to get what you want. It's an error from the Creator's perspective. Big time error. Okay? Alright, so we engage our will when we start taking responsibility. We actually need to engage our will to take responsibility for ourselves. Okay? Engaging our will is our soul's operation. So, once you direct your energy to start making emotional improvements, and you start saying to yourself, rather than watching TV, I'm going to lay in my bed and feel out my own emotions. Because I actually know that this is a better use of my time, because this is affecting my entire soul. Not just the physical body. Okay? So, when we start making emotional progress, now our soul is like, oh, this is real. And you can start engaging your will to do this more and more and more, and recognize how the law of attraction is operating hundreds of thousands of times a day in your life. Right down from the lyrics of the songs you're listening to the social media that you're consuming, to the people that you run into in the streets, to the foods that you want to eat, to everything is telling you something about yourself every single day. Thousands of times a day. It's incredible. Okay? So, I think we can start wrapping this up. But before we go, I wanted to just, again, highlight taking responsibility is a huge part of developing a relationship with the Creator and growing in love. Okay? We need to recognize that if we're going to be working with our soul, if we're going to be doing soul-based work, okay, that we are the only ones who can take things out of our soul. Other people can put things in, but we have to go in and pull that stuff out, metaphorically. We pull it out, metaphorically, by feeling our grief, okay? And we feel our grief through working through all of these layers of these onions, okay? When we start taking responsibility with our free will, then we can understand the totality of everything that has happened to us. And then once we continue to feel all this stuff out, we can start engaging in the forgiveness and repentance process with our family and with the people that we have harmed as well, okay? I talked a little bit about that in the past. There's 3 videos on forgiveness and repentance principles, but didn't really give a whole lot of practical examples of how that would work in the real life, okay? So we'll talk about that in the future. And yeah, good luck with this, everyone. Take responsibility. Love and peace, friends.